Fantastic. And welcome to the Besides and On podcast. Awesome podcast today. This is one of these, well, two of these subjects that are like, you end up just getting hundreds and hundreds of questions.
Yes, I think this is the most questions I've ever had.
Yes.
I think second only, possibly, it might have been the Dominatrix if we had asked for questions.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
I think so, yeah.
And I think that's the only one that would have got more.
Aye. We did do it live, though, that one.
We did do it live, aye.
Could have been better.
Aye.
Okay, so see what happens here. We have on the line, and I'm going to ask straight up, how do we pronounce your name? Is it, could you tell us, how do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, hi, I'm Antonio Maffei.
Maffei, okay. So we usually have a bit of an issue with the Scottish accent. Things tend to sound a little bit different. So I was going to say Maffei.
Hey, that works too. That works too.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
This is a common thing we have with accents.
Yeah.
We had someone named Fahy, or Fahy.
Oh, wow.
Well, he said Fahy.
But he just said Faye.
Yeah.
Because he was Australian. But we say Fahy. So it's very dodgy sometimes with the accent.
Really irritating. Irritating.
Yeah.
So we have you on, basically, for the sort of things you do in your line of work.
Brilliantly put.
I may start that
You're
again.
a professional.
I may start that again.
Start again.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll do something different. If you could introduce yourself to the listeners, that'd be perfect, Antonio, because I can't speak for some reason.
No worries. I have those days too.
Okay, so could you introduce yourself? Just tell us a bit about your background and stuff.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Antonio Maffei. I live in beautiful San Francisco, California, here in the United States. I am a 5-time published author working on my 6th book. I'm also a certified and verified meteorologist by several big United States organizations out here. And then I'm also into astronomy. I've been studying weather for about 15 years now. And in regards to astronomy, I've been studying that for, I would say, probably about 10 years now.
Okay, so you're pretty well versed in both those sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So for meteorology, meteorology is the study of weather. It's the study of our atmosphere. Basically, you step outside and you see it's sunny, but in the meantime, there's a lot more that's happening above the surface, no pun intended. But you see we have sometimes high pressure, we have low pressures. There's a whole bunch of different sciences that go into that. In regards to astronomy, you look up at the night sky, beautiful night sky, and sometimes what you see is really just stars that have already died, and whether they collapsed or a supernova. And you're just kind of looking up at the ghost of that star because of the amount of time it takes for that light to reach our planet.
Mm-hmm. One of the interesting things on meteorology for me is, I hear a lot, like when I'm watching like weather stations and stuff, when they talk about high and low pressures and all that stuff, and I really have genuinely no idea what any of that means. Could you explain that in like some sort of layman's term for me?
Yeah, of course. So high pressure refers to kind of more of a, what ends up happening is with high pressure, it takes that warm air from the atmosphere and it sinks it down towards the surface. So that's why during high pressure events, it's typically more on the warmer side of things. Low pressure usually brings some sort of disturbance. So whether that's storm, thunderstorms, whatever that may be, that's what low pressure does. It also can have the power to increase winds along with that storm. So I look kind of more on high pressure is more calm, low pressure is more kind of the atmosphere is a little bit disturbed.
Yeah. And what about rain and stuff like that? How do you able to tell? Like actually, one question is how accurate is meteorology? Because that's one of the biggest things that people keep mentioning.
Yeah. So in regards to meteorology, it's pretty challenging, I would say. A lot of people nowadays, they look a lot at the weather app on their iPhone or on their on whatever they may have, or they watch the TV weatherman. But in regards to meteorology, there's a lot of math involved, which is a bit unfortunate because I'm not the biggest math guy myself. There's a lot of calculus involved, and there's a lot of physics. Physics is probably one of the biggest things in regards to meteorology. And when you tie all of that in together, it really creates this big kind of dynamic kind of mess of science and math. So that's, I would say meteorology is probably, with all due respect to all the other sciences out there, probably one of the hardest sciences out there.
Mm-hmm. Could you, so you mentioned you've worked for like different weather stations and stuff. Could you go a bit further into detail on that?
Can you please repeat that question?
Sorry, yeah. Could you go into a bit further detail on like the weather stations you've worked for?
Yeah. So in regards to kind of the weather stations that I've been on, with me living in the Bay Area, we have a very kind of boring climate. But with regards to the weather stations I've been on, they've been very much kind of smaller weather stations. I've been on the Weather Channel, which is more of kind of a bigger weather station here in the United States, several times. But when you add all of it up, I began being on weather stations, on the weather segments, I should say, for news channels, back in about 2013, 2014. Okay. Had a big on-air debut with KPIX5, which is our local CBS news station here. And you can actually go back and watch that clip. It's pretty awkward. I was 13 at the time.
13.
But yeah, I was 13 at the time. And then altogether, I've had probably been on TV, I would say probably about 330 times.
Okay.
That's a bit more than us. I think that's 330 times more than us.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So you're doing quite well.
Just quite.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Because what I didn't realise was that you didn't actually like you were a weatherman. I didn't realise. I thought you were like behind the scenes meteorology, but now we know. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So are you sort of working behind the scenes a lot and then going straight like on air, like straight from the office sort of thing?
So for me personally, what I kind of do is, especially at the time of recording this, we have a pretty big storm on the way to the Bay Area, and I'll be doing my first kind of on the field reporting tonight with that storm system. So what I like to do is you check the models, you kind of calculate everything together, and checking the models, the weather models, take a lot of time out of your day. Usually because they update at different times. So for example, you might have one weather model that updates at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then the next one updates at 10 a.m. So it takes up a lot of time throughout the day. So what I do is I take a look at those weather models. I take a look at what is actually happening outside currently, take those current weather conditions, how they're going to change, what's going to change them, kind of those W's, what, when, where, why, how is the 1H. Take all of that together, kind of mush it all up together, and then after that, I'll kind of give a quick weather broadcast, and then that's pretty much it. You have to summarize hours of kind of work in about 2 minutes. And usually for me, I'm not very good at that. I usually go, instead of 2 minutes, I go 9 minutes. But yeah, about 2 minutes, you have to summarize kind of everything that you've seen.
Damn, I am so clueless. I had no idea that being the weatherman was so much.
Well, that's we have.
To be fair, the guy our local guy is a guy called Sean Batty. He does the STV thing, it's Scottish television, okay? And he makes it so easy.
Makes it look completely easy, yeah.
I had what I assumed, and this is totally insulting to him now, which I did not realise, is that he had been told what happened, and then he just went and reported it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask as well.
Yeah,
like if that's what happened, sort of thing. That was my.
Maybe it does here, but now I feel like a bit of a dick, to be honest.
It's just something we don't know. That's all it is.
So we have a bunch of weather questions, but you have two sciences that you're knowledgeable in. So I'd like to move on a bit, because we've got a lot of questions from fans that we've asked.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to them at the end. So I don't want to sort of ruin those questions now, just by me asking them. So if we can move to astronomy for a second. Part of why I got in touch was that I learned that astronomy and astrology used to be the same thing, and then there was a sudden divergence. Do you happen to know where that divergence happened and why?
Yeah, so astronomy is very much kind of the study of space. It's the study of stars, it's the study of our solar system, the planets, comets, whatever is out there. That's kind of what falls under the astronomy reign. Astrology is kind of what the ancient Greeks, I believe it was the Greeks, they came up with this kind of term where wherever the sun, whatever constellation the sun was in at the time of your birth, was going to be determined basically your entire life. And I know astrology is very much on the rise, especially among younger generations.
Yep.
You see a lot of people. I actually had an appointment yesterday, a doctor's appointment, first time meeting this new doctor, and she comes to me and she goes, "Yeah, so I'm a Pisces."
Oh.
And it's like, okay, that's great. But what basically it does is, so for example, I was born January 8th, meaning I'm a Capricorn. So the Greeks took that and determined basically kind of how you would act throughout your entire life. I actually have quite a few friends that are into astrology, and one of my other friends and I, we make fun of them all the time because they'll be like, I'm a Pisces, no wonder I had such a bad day. So we'll make fun of them during our nightly calls, and we'll just go, "Yeah, I'm a Caprice sun, so there's a reason that I act like that."
Awesome. So my next question is kind of stupid then. How much credence do you give astrology?
Not very much.
I think I know the answer.
So in regards to astrology, there's been kind of modern war, I guess I could say, within the science community, because there's a lot of people out there who are very much advocates for astrology. They're advocating, hey, it's a science, it's been proven, so on and so forth. However, more of the science astronomy community has argued that they have yet to present any evidence against that, or I should say for that. So basically, as of right now, there's no actual scientific proof or scientific evidence except for what you think that shows, hey, the sun was in this constellation when I was born, therefore I act this certain way. There's at the moment no scientific evidence to prove that.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of people like Darren Brown over in the UK, or people like James Randi, who you may be more familiar with, and they talk about horoscopes a lot, and they discuss the concept of Barnum statements. It seems to be just a whole bunch of different Barnum statements that try and fit as many people as possible, just to make it seem like it's more credible than it is.
Yeah. Like I said, it's more of this new modern warfare within the scientific community, where you have these big astrology advocates and these kind of a lot of them they claim that they're psychics. They claim that they can see the future and so on and so forth. And at the moment, once again, there's no actual scientific proof for
it's
that.
Weird. The people that think along those lines, and it's always weird that it always ties in some way. Like they think that the moon's alignment in some way helps them to talk to dead people in some way, and fucking I don't know how that all matches up in their heads.
Yeah,
I've never understood it.
Yeah, I know that it's basically kind of there's so my dad is a firefighter, and whenever he works on full moons, he's always scared to death because he's like, all the crazies are coming out tonight because it's a full moon. Yeah. But at the moment, there's in regards to the moon does have a lot of effect on the planet regards into tides, tidal forces. Sometimes the moon has an effect. A new study came out recently, I believe just about 2 years ago, saying that the moon had an effect on rainfall totals. So if it was a full moon, you might get less rainfall than if it was like a new moon, for example. So there's studies beginning to come out about the moon and how it affects with kind of human psychology. So definitely if you're kind of into that sort of thing where in regards to the moon and it affecting human psychology, definitely keep an eye on that because like I said, there's a few studies that are beginning to trickle out about that.
Actually, that makes sense because people argue that SAD exists, that seasonal affective disorder. There's some claim it doesn't exist. I have no idea whether it exists or not. Yeah. But that would make sense, even if it's just like a placebo or like a negative placebo. They think the moon affects something, so it then affects something because they think it does. Yeah, that could be something to play with. I don't know. Mm-hmm. What I do enjoy is that we've spoken, because of Matchmaker, really, we've spoken to quite a few scientists now, and every single time, skepticism of some sort comes up. Conspiracy theories come up. Just because scientists are the only times that we really get to properly laugh at and debunk conspiracy theories. So I really appreciate having scientists on. That's a very big thing for me.
Well, again, the same way that Antonio was saying that there's a big war in the science community, basically between like them and like, let's call it the crazies. Basically, it seems like it's a constant thing that comes up. It's really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, cool. So yeah, do you have anything
else? I have one more question before we get into Facebook questions. This is a silly question. I don't expect you to take it too seriously, but I'm going to ask just because you never know. Last year was a bit insane. Was there anything out of the ordinary for weather?
In regards to last year?
Yeah.
I would say there was a lot. I know a recent study came out from NOAA claiming that last year was, I believe, the second. It was either the second or it was tied for the hottest year on record for the planet. And we had a lot of big weather events last year, especially the Atlantic. The Atlantic hurricane season was pretty much off the hook. Record number of storms within the Atlantic hurricane season. Several big storms that hit the United States. We had Hurricane Laura, which was a Category 4 hurricane that slammed into Lake Charles, Louisiana. We had an Easter day. On Easter, we had a pretty significant tornado outbreak in the South. Took several lives, unfortunately, but big tornado outbreak in the South. We had Hurricane Sally. That slammed into Florida, Pensacola, Florida, to be exact. So definitely some big stuff, not to mention the crazy wildfires out west. Several big fires in California, several big fires in Washington and Oregon. It actually turned the sky here orange. in San Francisco, we woke up one morning, middle of the day at noon, and the sky was dark and the entire ground was orange. So it definitely it was something surreal. And now those fires, I shouldn't say the fires are coming back, but definitely the kind of remnants there of those fires are coming back with this incoming storm system, because what we're worried about with this, and there's evacuation warnings already posted for those communities, is that there's going to be what's called debris flows, and that's when the ground is so unstable due to all the burning with that fire that it just kind of slips and slides, and all that rain comes off, and it creates this big, like flash flood danger. So that's one of the big things coming up tonight that you probably might hear about in regards to international news by tomorrow morning. So definitely we're going to be keeping an eye on that. I'll be out in the middle of that, and I'll be certainly keeping an eye on that late tonight.
So do things like wildfires and that impact on changing weather? Does it change, like, so before the wildfires you could assume this specific thing is going to happen on Tuesday, and then the wildfires happen and that changes? Is it as impactful as that?
I mean, yeah, sort of. So the wildfires that we had here in California, they occurred in late summer. So they occurred around July, August, September. And then now here we are in January, and the burn scars of those wildfires are beginning to kind of show themselves again in regards to rain. And with the amount of wildfires that California has had recently, it definitely is a little bit concerning. A recent report came out yesterday in regards to Lake Tahoe, which is a pretty significant lake here in the United States. Big snowfall maker, and snow is really the source of the water within Lake Tahoe. It's kind of like a cooler, moderate climate. So usually during the summer months, Lake Tahoe is probably on average about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And then now with, they're projecting by 2100 that Lake Tahoe average temperature during the summer is actually going to be 85. So it's going to go up about 10 degrees over the span of the next 80 or so years.
Jeez. I lied slightly. I have one more question. Do
Go ahead.
you
Let's hear it.
happen to know of a Canadian man named Frankie Mcdonald?
I do not. Wait, I do. Okay, yes, I do. Okay, now the name clicked.
Yeah, he is my favourite weatherman in the world. He is. I'm just explaining this to Stephen because Stephen looks very confused
right now. Yeah.
Frankie Mcdonald is an autistic Canadian man who he doesn't have a degree in meteorology, but he loves it.
Right.
So he constantly watches weather patterns and does his own predictions, and I assume also just watches the weather as well. Right. But he does his own amateur weather reporting, and he is amazing to watch. He's so enthusiastic constantly. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about, because I don't know what I'm talking about, but he seems to be very enthusiastic about it, and I love it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Does he know what he's talking about?
Yeah. I've seen a few of his videos. I've had a few friends actually send them to me through like Instagram and through Twitter. I've seen a few of them. I would say he does know what he's talking about. In regards to probably more of the scientific part of it, I would say he's definitely getting there, if not already there. But I would say he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy about that, because he puts so much work in. He puts so much work in it. I don't know if he's predicting things himself based on data that's available, but he's brilliant. I'll send you a link.
There's a question.
He is amazing.
Is there a place you can go to get like accurate findings and stuff, like things that you guys are putting out, like from your community, rather than just sort of checking the weather on Google?
Yeah. So there's several good websites out there that kind of it shows kind of that beginner stuff that you see on your phone,
Yeah.
and then if you want to get more into sort of the advanced stuff, you're able to do that. So one of those good websites is the Weather Channel. They're pretty good on that. But if you want to just like solely do more kind of advanced stuff, I would recommend a site called Weatherbell, which is made here in the United States. It has all the different kind of forecast models from around the globe. It has the European model. It has the United Kingdom's model. It has the United States model. And it has all those models, those worldwide international models combined. So you're able to really compare and contrast. Okay, what is the Japanese model going to say for this incoming storm? What's the United States model going to say? What's the UK model going to say? So you're able really to check all of that within one single place.
Mm. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, right. Questions
from the audience.
The audience. You want to start with yours?
Yeah.
You have pretty like long, in-depth questions. I've got really short.
Yeah, I've got
ones.
very nerdy friends. I've got a couple of science teachers and things, so yeah, my ones are a bit long-winded.
Okay.
There's a couple that are kind of similar, so I'll just start with this one. This one has been sort of amalgamated into two different sections of the same question. One is, can weather be controlled? And the second part of that is, if it can be controlled, how do we make snow? Because a friend of mine wants snow.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. There was a report that came out, I believe it was just a few weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago or so, that claimed that the Chinese government, China, is working on controlling the weather and is going to have it nailed down by 2025.
Damn, that's
now, the skepticism of that report is very high because we all kind of know different little things that countries do in order to kind of flex and go, well, look at us. I think I would say that there will be a time when we can control the weather. I do believe that is going to occur. However, in my own personal belief, I don't believe that we should. Because there's certain things that we need Mother Nature to do, and we need Mother Nature to do herself. And when you start messing with Mother Nature, that's when stuff really starts going downhill.
That is a good point. However, we spoke to a virologist yesterday who was talking about man-made viruses being used to... Let me try and get this correctly. Because, again, I am not a virologist, so I'm probably going to mess this up. He was talking about using man-made viruses to fight against antibiotic-resistant bugs and algae and stuff like that. Would it then be possible to, if we were able to control the weather, to use that to combat climate change?
In regards to the basically man-made weather, I would say in regards to climate change and man-made weather, it would be very challenging to reverse the course of what is currently ongoing. It would take years, probably decades, maybe even centuries, to do that, and not to mention the fact of it would be basically what in regards to the whole climate change thing. It's basically the heat is just staying inside of the atmosphere. That's kind of the argument in regards to climate change. So I would say that probably it would be very, very tough to do so in regards to that.
Okay. And just so people know, that was from John Park and Gary Bernard.
Cool. Is it all meteorology stuff for you?
No. Do you want me to just go through all the meteorology
I was going to
stuff?
say, if you go through yours first, I'll get mine done, and then we'll start on astronomy.
Okay. So there's two that, again, are kind of similar. Are the extreme weather conditions we are seeing now a new phenomenon? Or have we always had these periods of extreme weather throughout the ages? And that was sort of mixed in with other people think that the Earth goes through phases of extreme weathers, but the general consensus is it's climate change that making issues. What is the truth? So they're kind of the same question, but worded differently.
That's a great question. In regards to extreme weather events, I would say that we've kind of always had extreme weather events. We've able to kind of, over the years, especially over the past 100 years, been able to really predict when those are coming, predict what's kind of happening in regards to that, and been able to really predict, okay, this is going to go this way and this is going to go that way, and so on and so forth. But in regards to basically the more kind of extreme events that we're seeing, what we're seeing right now is those extreme weather events are beginning to ramp up in regards to quantity. So, for example, we might see a major hurricane come through the Gulf of Mexico, and that would happen maybe once every 15 years. But now we're seeing it maybe once every 5 years. So we're beginning to really see these things begin to ramp up in quantity rather than how extreme they are.
Okay. And a final question about the meteorology stuff, but this kind of fits into both astronomy and weather. This is a very happy one from Dave Echo says, will the universe collapse or slow to a heat death? Very happy, man.
That's a great question. So in regards to that, there's a lot of science out there that suggests that what's going to end up happening in regards to the planet itself, that we're just going to basically begin to really heat up, become a lot like Venus. So on Venus, you have temperatures and highs that are about 830 degrees Fahrenheit. And that will happen, that will occur as the sun begins to kind of expand its width and its length. So in about 4 billion years, I want to say, we'll see the sun eat up Mercury, Venus, and Earth. So that is how we are likely to go out. Not we as humans, but we as the planet will end up going out through the sun kind of eating us up.
But humans will be long gone by then, is what you seem to be implying.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, right.
Yes.
How fun. Such a happy podcast.
It's great to talk about these things. It's always good.
I forgot to mention that the questions I asked earlier were from Anna Sullivan and Leslie McEwen.
Awesome.
Yeah, love that.
We have a question here from Louise Morris. How does a cloud fill up with water?
It's a great question.
That's a great question. So that is the process of what we call evaporation. So what ends up happening is you have water, so you have like an ocean, and as the sun heats it up, that water becomes what's called a vapor. That's where we get the term water vapor. And it turns into more of like a gas. And as it rises up, that gas condenses, and that's what forms a cloud. So basically what a cloud is it's just basically condensed water. It's it's basically condensed water that has turned from a vapor to sort of like a gas. And as it heads over, sometimes that water becomes too much to hold, it becomes too much weight, and it begins to fall. And that's how we get precipitation, such as snow or rain.
Ah. I love these. I keep... now I'm just thinking of clouds, and I'm like, oh, the white ones are all nice and fluffy. And then it gets dark. I'm like, oh, that must be all the what? Oh, that's cool. Yep. Now I know shit. I'm essentially a weatherman.
Therefore. Can you drown in a cloud?
Say that again?
Can you drown in a cloud since it's full of water?
Ooh, that's a good question. I kind of always wanted to do that, and when I began kind of studying meteorology, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm totally going to do that. Unfortunately, that would not be physically possible. I kind of learned that the hard way when I was doing research, and I found out that you can't do that. It crushed my childhood.
Yeah.
Damn.
And just to double check, there's nobody up there, right?
No, there's nobody up in the cloud. No.
Okay. Perfect. What makes raindrops tear-shaped?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, as I was saying about the clouds and the weight, as that raindrop falls towards the surface of the planet, it's getting like kind of like an updraft per se. So the wind is pressing up against it, and you have the middle, which is kind of that core of the raindrop. So the wind kind of goes kind of triangular per se, and that's how it forms kind of that shape.
Mm-hmm. What I love about these is that my friend Louise wrote a bunch of these questions, and it seems like she's just been sitting in her house and heard that you were coming on, and she just wrote a bunch of like
these are stoner questions.
Absolutely,
that's what that is. That's stoner questions right there.
So astronomy next, man.
Are we on astronomy
next?
Okay, well, because we sort of split up the questions into two. Mm-hmm. Some of these are going to be the same people, obviously. So, this is from Leslie McEwen again. Why do you see the image you are viewing upside down in a telescope? They rated it in cameras. Why not telescopes?
That's a great question. So telescopes kind of have this thing, and it's called refraction, and it's kind of like they have refractors and reflectors, and that kind of also goes in regards to cameras. They also have that as well. So it kind of inverts the image that you're seeing. So basically it comes through the lens, that main big circular part of the telescope. It comes through that, hits kind of like a mirror on the back of it, and then shoots it upwards towards the eyepiece of the telescope. So that's why they end up producing an image that's upside down, mainly because that's the way that the lenses and the mirror kind of works. So, for example, if you stand in here and you raise up like your right hand, sometimes it's your left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that was a thing.
The last time I viewed a telescope, and it would have been a really, really cheap one from Argos many, many years ago. God, I think it would have been like 9, 10, something like that, like real young.
Yeah, a kid, yeah.
Mm.
So I thought Dave was the only science teacher on my Facebook, but I get a feeling that Leslie is one as well, because some of the questions she's been asking are pretty good for the past few days.
Or she's maybe stoned, no?
She might be stoned. You never know. This one's annoying. This one's from Arn. What do they think of the notion that the word planet is actually not a very useful descriptor, because the terrestrial planets are so different from their gaseous cousins, especially considering that planet means wandering star, so we're already off on the wrong foot with describing celestial objects? Or in brief, should we start broadening the classifications we have for large objects in the universe in the same way we've broadened our understanding of tiny objects?
That's a great question.
Less enthusiastic about that one, I heard.
In regards to kind of exploring celestial bodies, including stars and planets, I would have to say that's kind of a big kind of thing, once again, within the science community, because a lot of people want to explore further out. A lot of people want to explore past our solar system right now and move on to what's called exoplanets. They want to move on to other stars and see if there's life out there, any other life out there. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of other people that want to explore our solar system first and really get all the answers to the questions that we have about our solar system answered before moving our view out to expand beyond the solar system. So in regards to that, there's a lot of people that are continuing to do studies. I know NASA is now about to land a rover on Mars again in just about 2 weeks. And then NASA's also continuing their exploration of Jupiter and its moons, one of which actually might be habitable for humans, and not even humans, but current micro life, so biological life. So there's a lot of kind of exploration about the solar system that people are looking at. But once again, we're also continuing to focus on beyond the solar system and exoplanets, and to see if there is life possibly like us or even more intelligent than us out there.
Well, that was the next question. What is the possibilities of life beyond our solar system?
That as well, does it?
That one's for John Park.
I would say very, very high, very, very likely. I would say there's possibly even the possibility of life within our own solar system. With Jupiter's moon Enceladus, they're saying that there actually might be life on Venus. However, the life that a lot of people refer to is more kind of intelligent life rather than microbiological life. There's evidence of that that's coming out, obviously. We've heard of Israel's former space chief who's come out and said, hey, the aliens are actually here on the planet, and they just don't want to meet anyone.
Nice.
There's a lot of weird stuff that's coming out right now. We've seen the United States military that has filmed like an unidentified flying object, and they're currently investigating that unidentified flying object, otherwise known as UFO. But I would say that the likelihood of life outside of our own solar system is extremely high.
Yeah.
So to sort of go into that, I was asked to ask about your thoughts on the Fermi Paradox, which says that there's not a lot of evidence to suggest there's life, intelligent life outside our solar system, but yet most people place a high probability on it existing.
Yeah, I would probably kind of agree with that. I would say what we would likely find in our own solar system is evidence of microbiologic life, which is kind of, for example, bacteria would be a form of micro life. So I think there's likely evidence of that on Enceladus, and we'll be studying that very soon, probably within the next 10 years, if not sooner. We'll be studying whether or not there's life there. Evidence came out of the possibility of life on Venus. I know that there's not too much study going into that because of the way that the atmospheric conditions are on Venus. But the biggest thing that a lot of people kind of contribute to life within our solar system is life on Mars. And they're definitely looking into that. They have found evidence of ancient liquid water on Mars, kind of like our oceans. However, at the moment, they're still kind of investigating whether or not that could have had intelligent forms of life within our own solar system.
Okay, so that could have been like a microbe-based water system sort of thing.
Yeah, I would say so.
Less like huge whales and shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge whales and shit.
Huge whales and shit. That's
Talking to a scientist, Stephen.
Hey.
Take it seriously. It's quite. Sorry, on you go.
Little funny fact for you guys. If we ever find life on Jupiter's moons, Europa, you have to name the life. So they would actually be called European.
Boom.
Because it's Europa, they'd have to be called European.
Perfect.
We're taking it.
I have a silly question, which has nothing to do with the Facebook questions, but I just thought of it.
Okay.
And I like silly questions. It's quite well known for Neil deGrasse Tyson to be a bit of a dick and ruin films and TV shows and things.
He loves it.
Yeah. Have you seen much about astronomy or meteorology in TV shows or films that you're just like, oh, that's nonsense?
Like, did you watch Twister and like love that film
or Big Bang Theory and hate Raj?
There's been a few shows that I've watched with my family where there's one movie out here. It's pretty popular in the United States. It's called The Day After Tomorrow with Jake Gyllenhaal. And there's been that movie is like one of my favorite movies that I like because of just the weather and the chaos of the storm and all of that. But however, I look at it and I'm just like, I'm one of those. My mom calls me a Debbie Downer when I watch movies because I'm one of those people that's just like, nope, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
nope,
I love that stuff.
Nope, he's doing it wrong. And just because whenever I see something that is like scientific in regards to my field, meteorology and astronomy, I'm just like, that's impossible. And she's just like, it's a movie. Just shut up, please. Shut up.
No, I think they're wrong. I'd love that.
That's the thing, because equally, if you see something that you really enjoy and you find really great, they'll probably equally still tell you to shut up as well because you're like annoying them during the film.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
Yeah,
I love it though.
Okay, so I have a question here from Louise Morris again. I felt like I was going to create names for her as we went through, but I'm not going to bother doing that. How far away is the closest star?
Ooh, okay, that's a good question. So in regards to light years, the closest star to us is actually only 4.3 light years away. It's called Alpha Centauri, and it's only 4.3 light years away. Now, a lot of people look at that and they go, 4.3 light years, why don't we just go to it? That's not that easy.
Yeah.
Mainly because it would take millions of years just to get to Alpha Centauri. But it's seen from the southern hemisphere. And the thing about Alpha Centauri is it has basically two stars. It's A Centauri and Centauri A. Which is a little confusing to a few people. And then there's also Centauri B. So actually, it's kind of like a triple star system. So there's 3 stars within this one system instead of like our sun, where it's just one star. So far, there has been, kind of referring back to the possibility of life, there has been a planet discovered within that star system called Proxima B. And it is Earth-sized, and it is within the habitable zone for life. So there's a possibility there could be something there.
Some whales and shit.
Possibly. Hey, you honestly never know. You honestly never know.
Sorry. Right, this is a total basic question that I should know. What is the difference between a planet and a star?
Good question.
I thought that was a dumb question. Yeah.
Hey, no question is a dumb question.
Listen, I said this earlier on because I was checking my Facebook earlier on and it kept saying someone is typing a comment. So I put up, I says, listen, if anybody thinks there's such a thing as a stupid question, I took the time on my platform to ask a virologist yesterday if COVID could help stop smoking. So there's definitely no such thing as a silly question. I do them. Everybody
I know,
does them.
but asking the difference between a planet and a star, I feel
and
like
I've said whales and shit twice on this podcast.
I feel like that's something that you're taught at school, at primary school, and I should know it, but I have no idea.
I mean, like I said, it's definitely a good question. It's a question that I actually get a lot. So the difference between a planet and a star. So a planet must do, in regards to NASA's definition, a planet must do three things. And this is the reason why Pluto is no longer a planet according to the International Astronomical Union, is because it must orbit a star. It must be big enough to have the gravitational force for like a spherical shape, but it also must be big enough that its own gravity within the planet has cleared away any objects of a smaller size near its orbit. So this is a bit of an outdated definition for planet, because if you look at the examples here, for example, we have Earth. Okay? Earth has a bunch of space junk that orbits around it that we've launched that is smaller than the own planet. However, it can't clear that away. So technically, is Earth a planet under this definition? So there's a lot of kind of argument with this definition. There's actually been a proposal to have any celestial body within the solar system become a planet. That would include our own moon, would become a planet. However, this has been largely kind of shunned against in the astronomical kind of industry. But in regards to a star kind of burns its own energy, it burns its own heat through nuclear kind of forces.
Mm-hmm. So you couldn't land on a star? Like, presuming you could reach one.
Yeah, it'd be super, super hot. Okay. But yeah, you could.
Oh.
Okay.
Again, every question that I say, I feel like I'm...
honestly just assumed for years that you just could not land on a star at all.
I think he means that you would die.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
Very much. Yeah.
I'm getting myself confused here. So basically, the next question I had was, how do stars die?
That's a great question. That could, it depends what you do, but in regards to how stars die, they die in many different ways. Some go out with like a big kind of bang, which would be a supernova. So, for example, the star would collapse and the outer layers of that star would explode as what would be known as a supernova. But stars die mainly because they exhaust their nuclear fuel. So they exhaust the fuel left to keep going, and therefore they end up dying.
Right. So can we land on them?
Say that again?
Can we land on the dead stars?
Unfortunately, we could not land on any dead stars.
Still too hot.
Damn.
I'll just keep going through these. So she asked how many galaxies are there. So I changed it because you're always kind of finding new stuff as it goes along. So I changed it to how many galaxies have we discovered so far?
Ooh, okay. That's
A rough guess.
that's a pretty
I'm
good one.
I'm gonna assume you don't know the exact number, but like a rough estimate, I would.
In regards to the galaxy, in regards to kind of how many galaxies there are, there is actually an estimate. I keep saying that there is an estimated amount for how many there are at the moment. Some galaxies at the moment is projected to be as old as 13.2 billion years old. But the observable universe, which we know and we kind of can see, has an estimated amount to contain anywhere between 200 billion and 2 trillion galaxies.
Oh, quite a few.
You tried to Google that to see if
I
you
tried
was
to
wrong.
Google it and my internet, my machine messed up. It basically said that there. This is amazing. Where's there stuff if we are made of matter?
I didn't get that question.
Can you please repeat that question?
Yeah. Why is there stuff if we are made of matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, there's kind of this thing. Carl Sagan, who is a pretty famous within the astronomy industry, said we're made of star stuff. Basically, what his statement sums up is the fact that us humans are made of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. So we're made of basically. We were created in the previous generations of stars over 4.5 billion years ago. So that's kind of what he's referring to, is the fact that we're made of practically all sorts of different elements that stars are made of.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I didn't understand that question.
I seen the question and I was like, he might understand, and totally did. Perfect. That's the last one I had there.
So, just before we sort of leave you to do your dangerous storm reporting, in the UK, it tends to be that at schools you get to choose one of three sciences: chemistry, biology, or physics. If you wanted to become a meteorologist, which one would you choose?
Chemistry, biology, or physics? Probably right off the bat, I'm sorry to all my fellow biologists out there, but I'm probably going to have to kick out biology. So basically now it's kind of left down to chemistry and physics. I would probably have to choose physics because physics kind of determines a whole bunch of different weather stuff in regards to updrafts, downdrafts, microbursts, high and low pressure systems and how they spin. So I would probably have to choose physics.
Okay. It's just that in the UK it's kind of limited. You're very, very limited on the science you get to learn. And so people that want to go into different fields might not know where to start. Because sometimes it's not always as clear.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming on. That's been much appreciated. Do you have anything you want to shout out, like anything you want to promote or anything like that before we go?
So thank you guys so much for having me. But in regards to, you can find me on Twitter at Maffei, MAFFEIWX. That's my Twitter handle. You can also find me on my Facebook page, Antonio's Weather Info. That's ANTONIO, weather, and then info, INFO. You can find me there. All my links are there. So if you'd like to kind of follow me on my journey, you can follow me there.
Could you quickly say before you go which weather channel you said you'd be on tonight?
Yeah, so I'll be on my own, Antonio's Weather Info. So once again, ANTONIO, weather, and then info, INFO. And that is on Facebook. So that's on my Facebook page.
Okay.